Some players go to Barcelona to be great, others go to Barcelona and have already been great, but there are just a few players that will be remembered by Barcelona fans for the surprise greatness they were able to bring and the joy they were able to spark against all odds. This is the story of Luuk de Jong.
And Luuk de Jong! Oh, de Jong! He is turning into a cult hero!
Luuk de Jong was born in Switzerland to some very sporty parents in 1990. His mother represented the Netherlands national volleyball team 90 times, while his father earned himself 35 caps on the men's team before taking a job as a volleyball player manager in Switzerland, where Luuk de Jong would be born. And I guess it's not surprising that Luuk de Jong ended up becoming the player he did with how athletic his parents were. He wouldn't be anywhere near the player he was without the jumping and timing ability to meet the balls in the air with his head that he has, and that lines up pretty well with the skills needed in volleyball. Growing up, Luuk also played a ton of football with his older brother, helping him to toughen up and figure out how to play his position stronger and harder than he may have otherwise if he had grown up in a different situation. And that was Luuk's rise. He slowly developed through the same team's youth system for 9 years, while his brother went on to play professional football for Ajax. Luuk was cooking in the shadows, and it would soon be time for him to make his own move. In 2008, Luuk de Jong made his first professional move to FC Twente in the Eredivisie, where he would make his debut and finally earn himself a starting spot in a big team where he actually won the league in his first full season. According to FBref, in Luuk de Jong's 3 seasons that he spent at Twente, he scored a total of 49 goals for the club, and that just made his name very interesting for a lot of teams looking to sign a striker, and his move would come in 2012. The 21-year-old's name had got some headlines and garnered some attention specifically from the heads of Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany. In the summer of 2012, the tall Dutchman would be the club's record signing at the time, 12 million euros. And coming off a 25 league goal season in the Eredivisie, well, they expected a lot from him, and he hoped to deliver them that, but it didn't happen. Luuk de Jong spent 2 seasons at Gladbach where he scored 8 goals, assisted 4 more in just over 2,000 minutes played. It was far from the expectations that he had set for himself when he came, and that left everyone wondering where he would fit from there. Luuk struggled to find his footing outside of the Netherlands, and a consistent place in that side was just not there for him. His football ability just did not fall into place outside of the Netherlands in the same way, and so the reasonable expectation could have been to make a return to his home country. But instead, despite his underwhelming performances, he made a year-long loan move to Newcastle United in England. It was a curious signing nonetheless, but at the time, the money-strapped and performance-lacking Newcastle might have hoped to snag a bargain from the Bundesliga club, considering de Jong's considerable success in the Netherlands just a few years earlier. To be fair, Luuk de Jong had performed for Twente in the Europa League, and so he had faced decent competition before outside of the Netherlands, but it was still a speculative and a curious signing. At the time, some people even ranked him in the top 100 worst strikers in the world. And honestly, his performances at Newcastle didn't make anyone think otherwise. He played 12 games and didn't score a single time. But to be fair, that begins to be less concerning when looking into the position that they actually played him there. While in England, Newcastle deployed Luuk as some sort of pseudo-second striker, linking up with the midfields, dropping deep to act as an attacking midfielder at times, and taking him away from the penalty box where he has proven his entire career to be the most effective. So of course he wasn't playing as good as he was expected to be. He was playing a completely different position. So undeserving of much of the criticism, Luuk de Jong rejoined Gladbach in the summer of 2014, where he made a move back to the Netherlands finally to familiar football, where he joined PSV. And there, he shined again immediately. Back in his original position, playing where he was comfortable, he was wonderful and consistently wonderful. From 2014 to 2019, Luuk scored 102 goals in the league and in Europe and regained that reputation of a consistent striker who could deliver when called upon. They also won the league 3 out of the 5 years that he was actually at the club, bringing about this streak of consistency that might not have happened at the club if it weren't for de Jong's consistent goals. However, all good things come to an end, and for Luuk, it was time to move on. and moved to Spain, where he joined Sevilla. Away from the Netherlands, he wasn't great, but he did his job. He may never have made an impressive tally of goals in Spain, but he helped bring the Europa League title back to Sevilla in his first season in a 3-2 victory over Inter Milan, scoring 2 goals and winning the Man of the Match award in the process, while also helping to keep the team in those European Champions League spots his 2 seasons there. He was a professional and hard-working striker, not the guy who was competing for the Pichichi or complaining when he wasn't getting the service he wanted, but he worked hard for the team, did his job, and while he was there, Sevilla performed pretty well, all things considered, but then the earth began to quake under Barcelona's feet, and everything would change for Luuk de Jong. In the summer of 2021, Lionel Messi was forced to leave FC Barcelona. Whether it was for contractual reasons or whatever else it could have possibly been, he had to leave, and that left a lot of goals missing for FC Barcelona that they had to find elsewhere, and without any money for big signings, they had to bring in people on frees, and it was looking pretty bleak for the Blaugrana. But then came Luuk de Jong, and absolutely nothing changed. I'm convinced not a single culé was even happy that this signing was made. A lot of people were probably left scratching their heads because, after all, Luuk de Jong had only scored a few goals the prior season for Sevilla, and why would he do any better for Barcelona? The club had just lost Lionel Messi, and now they're coming out announcing this shining new signing that just so happened to be a 30-year-old who scored 4 goals exactly in 34 appearances for Sevilla a season earlier. The Dutchman would make his debut for FC Barcelona on September 3rd, where he started, did very little, and then was subbed off for Philippe Coutinho. My God, what happened to my club? However, Luuk thankfully scored his first goal of the season for the club just 3 days later against Levante, but it still didn't really help the hopes for the rest of the club's season. Throughout the entirety of August and September, the team was incredibly mid, and even that is generous. In that time, they had won twice, lost twice to Bayern Munich and Benfica, and drawn 2 more matches. Looks like the signings of Luuk de Jong, Pjanic, and Memphis Depay weren't enough to cover for Messi. Who would have thought? And then in October, everything continued to go downhill, with losses to Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, and Rayo Vallecano. And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Laporta and co sacked Ronald Koeman, and the despair set in. That is, until Xavi was announced as the new manager of the side on November 6th. This wasn't significant because it meant the team was now ready to compete in every competition they were in, but it was significant because it brought some excitement to the games, a reason to watch the games after the team had been so terrible and sat pretty far down the table. Well, now Xavi was there, and maybe some interesting things could happen. Luuk de Jong was there too, but I don't think anyone were too excited about him yet. Fast forwarding to the new year, there still wasn't a ton to be hopeful for, but there were small signs that there was some hope underneath all of the mess. Newcomer Gavi was beginning to show off his stuff. Fresh signings looked to brighten the starting lineup with Ferran Torres and Aubameyang, while Luuk de Jong barely played any football at all. In November and December combined, Luuk played 103 minutes, not scoring or assisting a single goal in the meantime. However, in January, everything would slowly begin to change around the Dutchman. On the 2nd of the month, Luuk started his first match for a while, played the full 90, and scored the only goal against Levante with a header, assisted by a fullback. 6 days later, De Jong scored the team's only goal yet again with a header in a draw against Granada, also assisted by a fullback. Fast forward a month later, and the hero of Luuk de Jong was really beginning to take shape as he rescued a point in a red card-fueled draw against Espanyol 6 minutes into added time with another header. He wasn't a perfect player, didn't do anything in link-up play, and probably would have looked out of place in any Barcelona team ever going back a past century. However, he was doing his job and showing up when nobody else was. There was a glimmer of hope because of the Dutchman, and that would just begin to increase as the season went on. 2 months later, Luuk de Goat returned with another header 2 minutes into added time off a cross from another fullback to rescue a win for Barca and help the side scrape together a clean finish in a season where they had once been uncertain they would even finish in the top 4. That was his last goal for FC Barcelona, but it didn't matter because culés fans loved him for it and for what he brought to the club. He imprinted his name on the memories of fans forever in an unremarkable season against very much so less than optimal circumstances, and performed wonderfully in a team that was always doomed. Whenever they went down, there was never any hope, except when Luuk de Jong came on. Fans cheered his name whenever there was a corner and brought some excitement and hope and thoughts that we may come back whenever we were down, just because this guy could somehow put his head on a ball wherever we needed, whenever we needed. In total, the Dutchman only played 950 minutes for Barcelona, but he scored 7 goals in the process where they really needed them and scraped away points just in those few minutes that he got on the pitch, and I'm forever grateful, and I know so many other fans are. He will be a cult hero for all of us going into the future, and it's exciting to see him be successful elsewhere. After the season, he left Barcelona and moved back to PSV, where he has been incredible. It's funny, the second he goes back to the Netherlands, he again continues to shine brighter than he ever has anywhere else his entire career, except those last few months at Barcelona, because Barcelona fans will hold him so dearly to their hearts forever. This past season, Luuk and Serginho Dest as well helped lead PSV to a league title, while he scored 38 goals and assisted 18 more in all competitions for PSV. Not Serginho Dest, Luuk de Jong, and he's been incredible. On top of all of that, he and Cristiano Ronaldo are the only two players with over 100 headed goals in the 21st century, and I think Luuk de Jong is only like 10 away from meeting Cristiano Ronaldo's number. Not bad for a guy who had barely scraped past 5 goals in so many seasons. But I think I can speak for all of us Barcelona fans in saying, thank you, Luuk de Jong, for what you brought us. It was exciting and fun, and no one expected it at all. But if you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out this one about why Barcelona signed Hansi Flick, or this one about to see my Euro predictions. They're pretty bad. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.